Wouldn't be sitting in an owl wagon for local color. But his jokes. Just think, if you were some big shot like a casting director or something, I'd watch it vanish away. If there's trouble in your love.
She was one of the most desired women in America, but she never truly controlled how she was seen. If you've spent 20 or 30 years building a career, you know this feeling, when your reputation starts speaking louder than who you actually are. Hollywood built her image fast, but never gave her control over it. And once that image shifted, she had no way to correct it. What if she wasn't difficult, but simply didn't fit the role they chose for her? If you've ever felt misunderstood in your own work, stay with me. Before she had control, she had already been defined. You don't need to be in Hollywood to understand this. Sometimes the version of you that succeeds isn't the version you chose. It's the version that fits what others expect. That signature peekaboo hair made her unforgettable, but it also boxed her in. The studio system didn't build people, it built images that could sell tickets. And the public? They saw beauty. They didn't see complexity. She became something easy to recognize and hard to redefine. And once an image is set, changing it becomes harder than building it. If this feels familiar, keep watching. She didn't rise slowly, she appeared fully formed. There was no long climb, no gradual recognition, no years spent shaping how the world would see her. One moment, she was unknown. The next, she was everywhere, on screens, in magazines, in conversations across the country. And fast success feels powerful until you realize you didn't build the foundation yourself. If you've worked long enough, you know how important that foundation is. The years you spend learning, failing, adjusting, that's what gives you control later. But when success comes all at once, there's no time for that. You don't shape the image shapes you. That's exactly what happened here. Her rise wasn't just fast, it was constructed. The studio chose the roles. The scripts defined her tone. The branding decided how she would be presented to millions of people. Every detail was aligned, but none of it truly belonged to her. And when your career is built that way, you don't own it, you operate inside it. She became recognizable almost overnight. But recognition isn't the same as stability. It's visibility without protection. It's momentum without control. And for a while, it works. The system carries you. The audience responds. Everything moves forward. But underneath that momentum, something is missing, the ability to adjust when things change. Because when you didn't build the structure, you don't know how to rebuild it. And what rises that fast can fall just as quickly. Stay with me. She wasn't losing roles, she was losing control. And if you've ever been labeled difficult, you already understand how quickly that word can close doors, sometimes in a matter of weeks, sometimes overnight, without anyone stopping to ask what really happened. In any industry, especially one as tightly controlled as Hollywood in the 1940s, labels weren't just opinions. They were tools. Efficient, quiet, and incredibly powerful. Difficult didn't need evidence. It didn't need context. It just needed to be repeated. And once it was, everything else began to shift. Opportunities didn't disappear all at once. They narrowed. Conversations changed tone. The benefit of the doubt quietly vanished. And decisions that once felt open suddenly became final. Because the system wasn't designed to adjust itself. When something or someone no longer fit, the system didn't evolve. It replaced. That's the part most people don't see. From the outside, it looks like a personal decline. A change in attitude. A fall from grace. But from the inside, it often feels like something else entirely, like the ground is shifting beneath you, and no matter how you respond, the outcome has already been decided. And for women, the margin was even narrower. A man could be intense, demanding, strong-willed. A woman? She became difficult. Same behavior, different consequence. And once that label attached itself, it didn't just affect how executives saw her. It shaped how everyone saw her: directors, co-stars, reporters, and eventually, the public. Reputation travels faster than truth. Always has. A story repeated often enough becomes a version of reality. And in her case, that version hardened quickly. The studio didn't step in to correct it. They didn't challenge the narrative. They didn't slow it down. Because protecting the system was always more important than protecting the individual inside it. And without that protection, her identity in the industry began to freeze in place. Not based on who she was, but based on what had been said about her. That's when the trap fully formed. Not because she stopped working. Not because she stopped trying. But because the space to redefine herself was gone. But this is where her career becomes more complicated. Because from this point forward, it wasn't about talent, or effort, or even opportunity. It was about narrative. And once the industry decides who you are, proving them wrong becomes almost impossible. She tried to change, but the system didn't. And if you've been in the workforce long enough, you know this truth all too well. You can improve yourself, refine your skills, adjust your approach, but you can't always change how others have already decided to see you. From her side, the effort was real. She looked for different roles, ones that showed more range, more depth, something beyond the image that had been handed to her early on. She adjusted how she worked, how she responded, how she presented herself. Not dramatically, not overnight, but deliberately, step by step. Because when you realize you're being misread, the instinct is simple: correct it. But correction only works when the system is willing to listen. And this one wasn't. Hollywood at that time didn't offer resets. It offered continuity. Once an image had been established, especially one that sold tickets, it wasn't meant to evolve. It was meant to repeat. So even as she tried to move forward, the roles that came her way kept pulling her backward. The scripts reflected the same expectations. The conversation stayed within the same boundaries. It wasn't that she refused to adapt. It was that adaptation had nowhere to land. And over time, that creates a quiet kind of frustration. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady. The kind that builds when effort doesn't lead to change, when each step forward feels like it's being redirected into the same narrow path. If you've ever tried to redefine yourself after years in the same role, you understand how difficult that can be. Not because you lack the ability, but because others are still responding to who you used to be. That's where she found herself. Working, but not progressing. Visible, but not evolving. And eventually, that gap between effort and outcome becomes its own kind of weight. Because sometimes, effort doesn't rewrite reputation. If this resonates with you, stay with me. She realized too late. It was never just about talent. And if you've lived long enough, you recognize this moment when it arrives. Not all at once, not with a clear announcement, but gradually. The understanding settles in quietly. The system you trusted, the one you thought would reward effort and ability, was never really built for you in the first place. There's a difference between participating in something and being supported by it. From the outside, it might have looked like a decline. Fewer roles. Less visibility. A career losing momentum. But that's only one way to interpret it. Because what actually changed wasn't her ability. It was the system's willingness to carry her forward. And once that support fades, everything feels heavier. The same work requires more effort. The same results take longer. And the same recognition becomes harder to reach. That's when the realization deepens. Success, especially early success, can feel like proof that you belong, that you've earned your place, that the path ahead is open. But over time, you begin to see the limits of that belief. Fame creates visibility, but it doesn't guarantee control. It brings attention, but it doesn't ensure protection. And in her case, the gap between those things became impossible to ignore. She had been seen by millions, recognized across the country, Her image had traveled farther than most people ever will. But none of that translated into real authority over her own career. Because recognition is something given. Respect is something sustained. And those two don't always arrive together. When you reach this point in life, you stop asking, "Why didn't this work?" You start asking a different question. What was this system actually designed to do, and who was it designed for? That shift doesn't undo what happened, but it changes how you understand it. And recognition is not the same as respect. She was remembered, but not understood. And if you've lived long enough, you recognize this truth without needing it explained. Success doesn't always mean you were in control. Sometimes it just means you were visible at the right time, in the right place, under the right conditions, even if those conditions were never yours to shape. Her image endured. Decades later, people still recognize the look, the hair, the presence, the unmistakable silhouette that once defined an era. It became part of American culture, something familiar, almost timeless. But the person behind that image? Less clear. Less preserved. That's how legacy can work. What the world holds on to isn't always who you were. It's what was easiest to remember, easiest to repeat, easiest to fit into a story that doesn't require much explanation. And over time, that simplified version becomes the official one. If you spent years building a life, a career, a reputation, you know how incomplete that can feel. How a few defining moments can overshadow decades of effort. How the version of you that remains visible isn't always the one that felt most real. That's the quiet lesson here. Early success matters. Recognition matters. But neither of them mean much if you don't have a say in how your story is told. Because once that story leaves your hands, it takes on a life of its own. And getting it back is far harder than building it in the first place. Maybe that's the part people don't talk about enough. Not the rise. Not the fall. But the space in between, where you're still there, still trying, still adjusting, while the world has already decided who you are. If there's anything to take from her story, it's this: control over your narrative isn't something you wait for. It's something you protect, early and often, even when everything seems to be going well. Because in the end, a career isn't just about being seen, it's about how much of yourself you were allowed to keep. If this story meant something to you, you already know what to do.